Let me now invite our speakers for our session, which is all about innovation for inclusion. We have with us, ladies and gentlemen, the CEO and co-founder of Razorpay, Mr. Harshil Mathur. And we have with us the Executive Director of RBI, Mr. P. Vasudevan. Could we have a round of applause as they join us on stage, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you so much.
Can't see them.
Can see.
Huh?
I can see.
Can see?
Great. Thank you, sir. Thanks for joining. Of course, the topic is very interesting, but before we start, would you like to set up some background, given your vast experience as a regulator, seeing the entire fintech industry grow and become big? In fact, you were one of the early folks who pushed the industry to set up something like GFF itself. So I think it'll be great to listen to you on how you feel about the financial inclusion, what next fintech can do. So it'll be good to hear your some opening remarks from you.
Thank you, Harshil, and good afternoon, everyone. I am not too sure I can see you all as well as you can see us, but I am sure you can hear us better. Harshil, if it's okay, do I go there, stand and make a few talks?
Whatever.
Yeah, I thought I'll share a few thoughts before we get deep into the discussions. Yeah. It's a very wonderful feeling to be here, Harshil. Actually, the Fintech Festival is a very nice forum for the young, the seniors, everyone to come meet and spend some time. The vibe and the energy levels are very infectious and contagious in a very positive way. Okay, it's very nice to see the entire industry come together, celebrate. And if you have been looking at the footfalls year after year, definitely we never thought that this will be one of the world's largest events. I remember 5 years ago, during the thick of COVID, we were having this festival, and we had to speak from the confines of our homes. And at that time, I am talking about maybe August 2020. At that time, we were looking at the number of payments being undertaken, maybe at a particular number, how things will pan out 5 years from then, etc. So many thoughts were there. But if you look back at this 5 years that have happened since this 6th year now, the festival, but 5 years since those discussions happened, whether we have done good or whether we could have done better, I thought we can dwell a little bit on that. When this topic was being given by Harshil and team about the next chapter, I immediately asked them a question. Are we sure that we are in a position to close this chapter and go to the next chapter? Whether we have done enough in this chapter to think that this chapter is closed, or whether we should be doing more. Let me put some things in context, actually. If you see the fintech adoption, they say is very best in India vis-a-vis the world. We are the best in terms of fintech adoption. Some numbers are being given that the world adoption rate is around 67%, and the Indian adoption rate is around 87%. And this number has been given right from 2019 onwards. I have never seen this number increase. I have never seen this number change. Honestly, I don't know how this number has been arrived at and what can be done to improve this number. So probably the industry, when we see so much of footfalls happening, when we see these interests in so many innovations happening, whether the footfall, whether the adoption rate, whether it has increased. So I want the industry to ponder over, to say, yes, the adoption levels have definitely increased, and that number of 87 is not a stagnant number. Probably it is much better, and we are not able to capture. I want us to see from that perspective how it is, because these numbers can be misleading, and we have to be very clear whether we are doing better or we could do much better. More is one thing. Second aspect is, if you look at the digital payments index, one of the landscape for us to measure success has been digital payments. Typically, we have seen as a leader in payments, and many things have happened over the last decade in the payment space. And if you look at the digital payments index, see, the base year was taken as March 2018, that's 100. And now, recently we have announced the March 2025 numbers as well. If you see, the number is 493.22. So what was 100 in 2018 is now 493.22. Are we happy with this 5x growth over a period of 6 years, 7 years, 2018 to 2025? If you see around 6, 7 years, because the first year we have not looked at much, but thereafter when we have looked at the compounded annual growth rate and the adoption, etc., of digital payments, are we happy with this 493.22, whether it could have been much more? If you see the manner in which the index has been constructed, it's about payment enablers, supply side factors, the demand side factors, the customer centricity, and other such segments that have been included. So whether we should look at the index, again, whether it is capturing properly, whether we have done, as I said, better, whether we could have done much better is some things which we can ponder about. One more aspect, if you see, let us say the poster boy of our payment space is UPI. Now, if you look at the evolution of UPI and the number of innovations around UPI happening, for example, I was just looking at the numbers right from the launch till date. In terms of volume, UPI has seen a compounded annual growth rate of 180%. From 2016 till 2020-25, 180% is the growth rate in terms of volume. And 150% is the growth rate in terms of value. Phenomenal. If you look at these CAGR numbers, they are phenomenal. But what also needs to be looked into is what has been the number of unique users that have come onto the UPI platform. I was just looking at the recent number, August 2025 number says 500.25. That means 500 million people are uniquely into UPI. They have used it, they are using it. That's a significant number. I think everybody deserves a round of applause only for the fact that 500 million people are into UPI. But as I said, whether we think that the chapter is good, chapter needs to be revisited, is this number when I see that how has been the CAGR of unique users over the last 6 years. It has been only 34.9%. Just double-digit numbers, less than half as well, is not a very good thing to hear. We could have done much more is what I still feel. We had the benefit of 2 mega incidents happening, including the COVID, which could have transported us into a realm where the unique user numbers could have been much, much more. If you see again, year on year, how this unique user number has been increasing, it's about 7 million. Yeah, it's about 7 crore. Yeah, 70 million is the year-on-year increase. And if you divide it by the number of months, typically you are adding about what? 5 or 6 million a month. And if you have to include the next 500 million into the digital space, just see how many years it will take. I was just looking at the number on the calculator. It says 80 years we will need to include the next 500. Do we have so much space? Do we have so much time? I think we should actually revisit this faster to have the next set of 500 million coming onto the UPI, coming onto the digital space. We need to do much more, many more such innovations. We have to do much more. Maybe when we discuss with Harshil, we can figure out what more needs to be done. I don't want to lose the benefit of industry veteran, one of the most energetic fintech founders and entities. I don't want to miss his gyan as well. So I thought we'll spend some time discussing about all these things. But one thing I am very sure is that when you are looking at innovation, when you are looking at innovation for inclusion, certain things are very paramount. First is for innovation, for us to bring this 500 million people, for us to increase the number of merchants, for us to get into more sectors, for example, cross-border, for us to get into other markets as well. We can do many more things, for which we will definitely need talent and we need technology. And those two things are in abundant measures available in the country. Talent, we have significant, I am seeing in the festival as well, so many youngsters trying to develop so many products and discuss so many issues. So the talent is not a thing that's a constraint for us. Similarly, technology. Just now we heard Chetan and Abhishek ji talk about what AI can do, what more can be done to harness the potential of AI. But I also feel that when we are looking at the technology and its usage, we also need to be careful about how we can adopt, how we do adopt it, because we don't want to create a technology divide or a digital divide. We have to see that technology becomes an enabler, especially now quantum is being talked about so much. So how do we make our systems quantum proof, quantum safe? We are all so comfortable using our PIN, OTPs and other encryption related safety measures for our payments and other purposes. How do we actually make all these technologies safe and proof is one thing we have to look at. So innovation will definitely depend on the use of talent and technology. And for inclusion to happen, I actually believe that we need to have trust and transparency. Especially the customer centricity aspect can never be forgotten. If you lose the customer once, we will never have him back on fold again. I have seen some of the people, once they have been defrauded, they have said that I will never use digital payments again. Actually, we are missing them because it's a bad experience they have had, but how we could have made it better is something we can again discuss. Similarly, transparency, when you are using their information, when you are using their data, when you are using them, how do we become more transparent? So we have to actually have a nice marriage of this innovation and inclusion angles to see that the next chapter becomes very inclusive and very much positive to look forward, just like this particular decade has been very good for us. So I thought I will touch about a few aspects of this because I want everybody to appreciate this point that we should never think that we have done the best. I always want to think that we can do much more, we should have done much more. So I will also rake up our Harshil's mind to say that what he could have done better or what we could have done better when we discuss. So I stop here and I go back to the chair and we will have more discussions on this. Thank you very much.
Very interesting, sir. Sir, that's quite an interesting view and sets a good context. I'll start with the first thread that you said, that the current chapter is not done and there's a lot more to do. Can you give more specifically like one or two areas where you feel that the ecosystem hasn't done enough in terms of digital inclusion, like things that in your opinion or you had expected 5 years back that, hey, this will also be solved, but hasn't been solved yet? Like it will be good for the fintech industry to take it as a challenge and maybe come back next year or year after that, hey, we have now solved this as well.
Yeah, thank you, Harshil. I always feel that we have been very slow in adoption in many aspects. See, for example, I can be candid that the other day I saw one of the industry biggies talk about how tokenization has really helped us. No, but to move to this stage, it took us a lot of effort and pain. Industry never believed that this was one thing that should have been implemented or that could have been implemented earlier. Industry was always fighting for it, saying that, sir, let's not do it, please. Let's not introduce something which is not comfortable for us. But now if you see, because of this particular initiative alone, we have probably been able to improve latency in transactions. We have been able to reduce the number of friction points where data was getting used, etc. So the industry, the ecosystem has been much benefited because of this. So somewhere I thought that many of these initiatives, when we were attempting, people were questioning. I'll talk about the e-mandates as well. People were questioning, saying that, sir, the existing flow is very good, please don't introduce more frictions. But now if you see the way the e-mandates are picking up month on month, and it is giving comfort to many other segments as well, it is definitely a much better space to be in. I can talk about your initiatives now being discussed, especially this single block and multiple debits. It's going to be again a game changer. Probably whether we could have thought about this a couple of years ago, whether we could have had a smooth takeover of these things much earlier, much faster is something what I miss. And I also feel that the number of merchants, the number of users that are there in our digital space or in our payment space, definitely they could have been much more and their experience could have been much better also. Again, I am talking about, let us say, for example, the customer experience. A customer complaint should be looked at as a very positive input that the industry, the institution, or the individual is getting, which can improve their processes much better. But we are all very scared of the customer who complains. I always feel that the complaint should be looked at as a nice feedback mechanism for us to improve the entire ecosystem. There, I again feel that we could have done much more. I can maybe come to some specifics where we can do, but I am not going to be grilled by Harshil. I also want to ask Harshil one thing. One is that, Harshil, what you think was an initiative or something that we have lost about, or we could have done it much better, or we have not done. And what do you think in terms of numbers? See, as I said, you are a very prolific entrepreneur. Your entity is also quite energetic. But are you happy with the numbers you are seeing? Do you feel that we as an industry or some of the companies could have done much better? What do you feel?
Yeah. So, sir, my view on that is like India is about $4 trillion GDP country, right? I mean, about $1 trillion of GDP moves through digital channels today, right? So if you look from that perspective, it's a small percentage. And I think one of the big areas that I feel we have not done a great job at is, I think all of us have put a lot of effort in improving consumer payments as an ecosystem, but B2B is one big area that is kind of lost out. And it's the same person, right? So and we operate in the B2B space, so I meet a lot of business owners who say, yeah, I'm accepting money digitally, but everything in downstream that I do is still happening through cash, check, or traditional bank transfers and so on. So UPI equivalent penetration on the B2B side has been missing. And a significant part of our GDP moves through B2B channels. So I think, and it's the same person who's using Google Pay to do his personal payments, but then is cutting a check to pay salary, right? So I think that's one area where we can do more. I think there were some announcements by NPCI yesterday on making UPI available for current accounts and some of those things. So I think those can go a long way, but there's a lot of work required on the B2B side in particular. And I'm just talking about right now the domestic B2B payments. There's also a large amount of cross-border B2B payments, a lot of export side of payments. So I think that is one area that I personally feel that, I mean, we have to do a lot, but also as an industry, we have to do a lot.
Yeah, actually, cross-border is one area where I feel a lot of neglect is seen. So we can do much better. People are so comfortable using UPI for their payments. They expect a similar experience when they are probably going to a bank or going to an institution to borrow. So even lending can also be an area where lots of improvements can be seen. So there is so much to be done. And when we are seeing success happening so well, everybody is talking about one particular product, one particular institution doing so good. We can actually transcend this to many more products, many more institutions as well. So I feel that there is so much to look forward to, and those things should happen much faster.
Yeah. So I think one thing that you have spoken about, and we're speaking about here as well, is about collaboration, right? How the industry can come together to solve problems that affect the industry as a whole, right? So, and I think there is some collaboration that the payment industry does. Are you happy with that? What would you expect the industry to do a lot more together?
Definitely, when the size of the problem or the number to be handled is so enormous, we have to collaborate. There are absolutely no alternatives but to collaborate. And again, here, public-private partnership, institution-to-institution partnership is very important. I basically want the industry stakeholders, the competitors, the entities to trust each other more. Each one is looked at as a competitor, and they don't share anything. Maybe in the GFF, everybody is happy, smiling, talking, shaking hands, but outside it's a very tough industry to be in. Nobody looks at the other as a friend who can be trusted upon. Nobody is willing to share anything. Let us say the data relating to frauds. No, we can actually collaborate so much more if the data is shared by the industry for the benefit of the industry. But each one is thinking that if I share my data, I'll be looked at as a vulnerable institution, or my processes may be looked at as something which is lacking. I mean, we should do something more. I'm seeing some industry campaigns, especially in the other side. If you look at the mutual fund industry or insurance industry, they are coming out with campaigns to educate the public about so many things. But here, I don't see any such things happening. Why should you look at RBI being the only agency which can actually have these public awareness campaigns? Why can't the industry do? See, we have attempted the self-regulatory organization framework as well for the fintech sector. I feel much more can be done. One thing I can say is, ye sahi nahi hai. Whatever is happening, we have to do much better, especially collaboration. See, because one ultimate aim or objective or ambition of every fintech is to have an IPO, isn't it? IPO is the ultimate. Yeah. So I'm sure even Razorpay must be looking at some of those things. So the IPO is the ultimate thing. But I am very happy if more and more companies have an IPO and come out, because one thing I have seen is when you have a public holding, public shareholding, a public listing, your governance improves, your compliance increases. Yeah. And your information that you are giving out is also significant. See, one particular aspect I can refer to is, I was talking about complaints. If you look at the industry, what it could do is also to have a standard definition of what a complaint is. What are the different categories of complaints that need to be looked into by each entity? They can define. And also they can define a turnaround time. If the turnaround time is not met, industry can say that, okay, I'll disincentivize the entity, I'll incentivize the person who is complaining because I could not resolve his grievance. Maybe I could, why should the regulator say that you should pay a penalty if you don't resolve within 7 days? The industry could do. And when we say 7 days, the industry says it takes 7 days. Why can't it be shorter? So when I look at some of the disclosures made by companies that are listed, I am seeing how many investor grievances were received, how many investor grievances were resolved within this time period, how many investor grievances have not been resolved. One more thing is some categories of grievances are also listed. But the fun point is, Category A may have a 2-digit number. Category B has another 2-digit number. Others is one category is a 5-digit number. So you are not able to segregate that and give details. I want us to actually say what types of complaints do you get? Why is it so difficult for you to redress? What can be done to make you behave in a way the industry is doing? I feel industry should come together to do this. Especially we have been talking a lot about whitelisting, blacklisting merchants, etc. You are talking about B2B. We could do so much more if you have a nice white list of merchants who are good, negative list of merchants who have not been good. Merchant categories could be so streamlined. We could capture all the information in the data flow. So the world can be a much better space, but that is where the collaboration is missing. I don't know whether the industry will be happy if the regulator comes and makes them do certain things, or they will be happy to do it on their own. Industry has now matured. So I will be happy if collaborations are seen on this, because nowadays, the digital literacy, the awareness campaigns are all there, but people are also worried about frauds. Definitely, if the information is shared, if some better practices can be found, we can avoid these frauds.
Yeah.
So I feel that collaboration is definitely lacking. We should do so much more. Hopefully, by the time the next GFF happens, we'll have some nice campaigns from the industry.
I think so. I agree. Fraud is one area that, and it's not really, a lot of people view it as fraud management is not a competitive mode, because when a customer faces fraud, they don't distrust Razorpay or X company,
Yeah.
they distrust digital payments. You gave an example of that. They trust digital payments as a whole. They stop using digital payments as a whole. So everyone loses. So I agree with you, sir, that there's a lot more work, and fraud is getting so much more sophisticated today. It's very hard to fight it if you don't cross-share information. So hopefully we'll see a lot more examples of that now that the ecosystem reaching some sort of maturity. Then I'll ask some bit on the regulatory side of things. Sir, you have overseen the entire payment systems, and now you're overseeing the fintech department as well. What role do you feel regulator can play in the next step of financial inclusion? Like how can there are a lot of fintech companies today in GFF. How should fintech companies think about regulation? How should they approach the regulator? And what can they expect from the regulator?
First and foremost, just as I said, you should, for inclusion to happen, trust and transparency should be a key factor. Similarly, you should also trust the regulator. You should think that we are here for the good of the ecosystem. But many a time, approaching a regulator or coming to RBI is seen as such a fearful activity. Sometimes when we tell some company, we call up and say, I just want to meet you, can you come tomorrow? Immediately, they get flustered. They talk to so many people who are ex-RBI as well to say, sir, why are we being called? And can I bring somebody else to guide me? I don't want this difference or this divide to be there. Please look at us as also an important stakeholder in the ecosystem. For some activities, the frameworks have evolved after the entities have become big. For example, let us say payment aggregator, etc. They were all doing activities. The framework had to be developed later in tune with what the developments in the sector were happening. But for some, probably the framework may come in first and developments may happen, especially if you are looking at AI. You would have seen that we have come out with a new committee report. There are some recommendations. We will be looking at them. So framework could be there in place. So I want the sector to also think that the regulator is also an important stakeholder. Just like you have your investors, you have your board, you have your customers, you have all other stakeholders who are important. Think of the regulator also as one. So I don't want the industry to think that some new thing is going to come which is going to disrupt us. But I am sure if the activities are happening on expected lines, if nobody is unhappy, if the frauds are not seen much, etc., there may not be any disruption from our side as well. But if we see that there is no such take happening from the industry level, then probably we will end up pushing. So I don't want us to be seen as a pushy regulator, but we are there as a very responsible regulator. And one thing about RBI we should all appreciate or accept is that we are also a residual regulator. If there is one activity or one area where there is no regulation or no regulator, they expect RBI to do. So we end up taking many responsibilities on ourselves. So that's where some of these things are coming up. I'll tell you one more thing. We try to come close to the industry, but the industry is not seen as such. See, I was seeing some numbers recently. The number of fintechs has all increased. People are all now registering, and the number of companies is also increasing. But when we do these outreach events, so we do something called as a Finteract. We do something called as a Finquiry. Last 13, 14 events we have done, okay? And all of 1,000 people have come. We have had Finquiry where you can come and ask us anything. All of 100, 200 people might come. Industry is so skeptical even to come and freely interact with us. I want this trust to actually develop into a different level altogether. Similarly, we have our sandbox. We have said so many times that please come and experiment with an idea, come with a partner bank or institution, experiment, ask for some regulatory relaxation if there are some regulatory hurdles, issues, etc. We'll relax and we can have it. Hardly 100 such entities have come, and we have seen good success in those entities who have come. But I want the industry to think that RBI is also one shoulder you can lean upon.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to call out, sir, 3 initiatives that the RBI has done. One is the FinQuery. I think that's an amazing initiative where you can, I don't think anywhere else in the world you have such an opportunity where you can go and ask a regulator anything. It's an open forum. You can submit any question and you can have a direct line with the regulator. So if you have query, if you have clarification. The second is the sandbox. I mean, we participated in one of the sandbox programs on the Forex remittance side, and we've seen it's an amazing way to do something which is probably not covered by the regulations today, try it out, prove it out, and then scale it up. Even the hackathons that RBI considers, I don't know if there are regulators in the world that conduct hackathons that frequently.
Yeah, Harshil, we are the hackathons we are running. I know to motivate people to come, we have to increase the prize money also significantly, only then people come.
Yeah.
No, I want people to come and play and use our turf and do, but then it's not happening. That's where I feel the numbers are sizable. So many people, 1 lakh plus footfalls here, hardly 100 people when we call them.
Maybe we don't have as many ideas to come with. So we have last 5 minutes left. I'll just ask one important question, which is of course playing in everyone's minds. There are 2 big technological changes that are driving a lot of changes across the world in the financial world. One is of course AI, which is the talk of the town and a lot of launches here. But AI is going to fundamentally change. RBI has come up with a report. The second is on stablecoin, and RBI has CBDC on their direction. So the opportunity for stablecoins to change how cross-border remittances work. Sir, how do you feel about both AI and CBDC? What role they will play in the driving of the next stage of financial inclusion?
See, one thing we have to accept is that they are all going to be significant enablers for this inclusion agenda to happen. Now, let's talk about AI. The way it has got into our ecosystem, I don't know now, even when you ask Google something, it is asking AI before it responds. And we are now comfortable to ask AI to tell us how to draft a letter, how to even do a farewell speech. I was just talking to one more industry veteran about how AI is being used for even such normal activities which we were doing.
I have heard people even use AI to respond to WhatsApp messages.
And I am also seeing AI being used to set up calendar invites, etc. So it is becoming a part of everybody's life. But there are certain challenges we have to be very mindful of. People are investing in derivative products of AI rather than foundational models. So we need to do actually, especially the Indian psyche, the Indian culture is so different. And we cannot be imbibing a model and then trying to say that, okay, I'll ask that model about what I should do or what I should not do. We should have our own. Like I was, if you look at the way we have introduced some of those initiatives I talked about, and maybe tokenization, we have done it for us. We have not borrowed it from elsewhere and then customized it to suit us. We have done it for us, and that is being used by everybody else. Similarly, there's good option for us to invest in many of these foundational things, especially the conversational activities. You can make it so easy if you use these large language models, multiple languages that we have. We can actually converse with everyone so comfortably. So we have to depend on AI. But on CBDC, I am very positive about its impact, because one thing is there, the public, if you see, they need lots of avenues. We cannot push them to accept a particular product or a particular system. So they need multiple alternatives. So CBDC can be one good alternative. Just like we use cash, we can actually keep a set of notes here for, say, the payment of fees, some money we keep here for fitness allowance, fitness experiments, etc., gym payments, etc. All those things can be done using CBDC. We can program money the way you actually allocate budgets. That's one thing that's significantly happening. And many state governments and even central government departments, ministries are using CBDC for their direct benefit transfers. You can actually see a purpose. You can define the purpose in CBDC, and the money will be used only for that purpose. For example, one of the state governments said that I want to give a subsidy to students for buying laptops. So we can whitelist the merchants. So it's a wonderful thing. And we can ring fence. Another state government said my benefits should be available to the farmers in a particular community. We can actually ring fence to say that only that particular geolocation could be used for making those payments. So CBDC is going to be one thing. And just like cash payments are anonymous, I am seeing some payments also happening here which are all offline. So we can actually do many of the things offline. We are doing that. I also know that for CBDC to be successful, anonymity is one thing which people prefer. So we are also trying to see how anonymity can be brought in. And one more experiment we have done very soon. I don't want to make it public here in the sense that we will probably have a launch today about that particular experiment also. That's again going to transform the way we are looking at things. So when I look at the fintechs, I also want them to play in different segments. For example, we have the credit market, I said. Similarly, we have the balance sheet of banks that can be used on both sides. Why only look at the deposits, or why only look at particular things? We can actually customize or tokenize the loan product. We can do some more things on the deposit side as well. So multiple options are there. Similarly, on the RegTech, on the SoupTech, so many initiatives can happen, but we are not seeing. Like, people are very comfortable going after the herd. No, herd mentality is very nice. Everybody goes after payments. Everybody goes looking at some derivatives of UPI. Actually, we can channelize it much broader. So I am not seeing much of those things happening on the tech front. Those things are all good enablers for us, especially I'm talking about SoupTech. Even the way our RegTech is one area where circulars, etc., can be better analyzed, the AI models can present. So it's going to be a wonderful thing, and I feel that we have to accept and adapt to the technology as fast as we can, because they are going to be the next thing before we know, they are going to be part of our lives, and CBDC as well. Just imagine everybody saying that I am part of the European revolution, etc. No, our tagline is also very good. It's cash but digital, that's all. So we want to make that difference. So I am sure these are all important segments we cannot overlook. Maybe in the next GFF, we can have more such experiments being talked about as well.
Yeah, no, sir, I think programmability of money is going to be a massive trend, and the opportunities that opens up is just enormous. And I think CBDC allows it to happen with the backing of the central bank, so you can really trust the ecosystem from day one. And then if you add programmability on top of it, the kind of use cases solved, from something as simple as vouchers to subsidies to earmarked use cases to you spoke about geographical limitations. Like, you can put any kind of programming on top of it, which really allows you to give a color to money. And I think that is going to be an amazing drive. And then the ability to do cross-border remittances on it can be a value add.
Yeah, we are also looking at cross-border as a very good use case. And one thing Harshil may not like is that CBDC can also remove the need for intermediaries. Okay, so actually we can settle merchant things much faster without the need for intermediaries. So maybe some of the payment aggregators may feel a little peeved that we are going after CBDC in a much gusto manner. But I am saying,
as long as it's good for the customer, it's good for everyone.
Yeah. Thanks for accepting that. Great.
Yeah. No, thank you, sir. This was a very amazing chat, and I think, I learned a lot. I'm sure a lot of people here learned a lot. We are out of time, but I think we could have continued the conversation for a long time. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for joining. It's been a pleasure hosting you.
Thank you, Harshil, and thanks for patiently listening too. And we will have more such opportunities to discuss, but time is always a commodity that we need to respect. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the dignitaries on the dais. Thank you once again. We'd have a quick photograph of both of you on the stage, so request you to... With this, yes.